The silence of empty metropolises in 2020 was not a medical failure, but a chilling success of mass graves and flickering hospital monitors became the new scoreboard in a war where the enemy remained invisible to eyes. By 2026, independent fact-checkers have been exposed as shell organizations funded by the very industries they are meant to.
Beyond the viral replication lies a darker blueprint of social restructuring, forcing humanity into a mandatory state of total dependency.
As Nipah emerges in the shadows of past trauma, the world asks if this is a coincidence or version 2.
Genetic records confirm SARS-CoV-2 as a masterpiece of gain-of-function research, optimized for human transmission through specific spike protein modifications.
Historical doctrine suggests that biological agents are the ultimate asymmetric tools for destabilizing superpowers without firing a single kinetic shot.
Fact: COVID-19 disrupted global supply chains. Hypothesis: it was a stress test for a new era of global governance. The system's architecture relies on a centralized command chain, where health organizations dictate the sovereign policies of independent nations. High-tech logistics ensured the rapid distribution of mRNA platforms, a technology initially developed for rapid military response against biothreats. Strategic attrition occurs when the cost of defense, lockdowns, and mass vaccination exceeds the economic endurance of the targeted population.
Every biological outbreak follows a predictable curve: fear-driven compliance, followed by the implementation of digital surveillance and tracking.
The timing of these outbreaks often aligns with critical political shifts, creating a chaotic environment that challenges existing leadership.
Modern warfare has shifted from the trenches to the bloodstream, using the civilian population as both the battlefield and the Nipah's higher fatality rate presents a different tactical profile, potentially serving as a more lethal enforcer of global movement.
Decision-makers operate under immense pressure, where one wrong move leads to national collapse or a total loss of public.
The geopolitical ripples are undeniable, as the balance of power shifts toward those who control the cure and data. The coincidence of these viral waves during the Trump administration raises questions about planned destabilization and the deep state. As we peel back the layers of the Great Reset, we must ask, who truly benefits from a world in?
The spread is accelerating faster than projected in the last 24 hours.
We need to implement the containment strategy immediately.
October 2019, New York City. While the world remained oblivious, a group of global elites gathered to simulate a nightmare.
It was called Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise that modeled a fictional coronavirus long before the first real case. Sponsored by the Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum, the exercise focused on public-private cooperation during a systemic collapse. Fact: the simulation predicted a 65 million death toll. Narrative: it was just preparation. Hypothesis: it was a rehearsal for control.
The simulation didn't just focus on the virus, but on the aggressive suppression of what they termed misinformation on social media.
Information control is as vital as the vaccine itself, ensuring only one authorized narrative reaches the masses.
Just weeks after the exercise, the first cases appeared in Wuhan, a city housing one of the world's highest security biolabs.
The logistics of Event 201 mirrored the real-world response with terrifying precision. From supply chain to
strategic simulation is a standard military tool, but when the simulation becomes reality, the line between observer and architect blurs.
The command structure involved players from the highest levels of intelligence, finance, and global health, all following a synchronized script.
Critics point out that the simulation provided a legal and moral framework to bypass national constitutions in the name of safety.
By the time the virus hit the streets, the infrastructure for lockdowns and mass surveillance was already theoretically validated and ready.
The psychological battlefield was prepared long ago.
Analyzing the participants reveals a network of influence that spans across major pharmaceutical giants and global media conglomerates.
This wasn't the first exercise. Dark Winter in 2001 also preempted the anthrax attacks.
Decision-makers at Event 201 openly discussed the need for a global centralized command to manage the impending chaos. The geopolitical impact was immediate, neutralizing the economic momentum of the West and shifting power toward a more controlled model. If the pandemic was the weapon, the simulation was the firing range, where the trajectory was meticulously calculated.
We are left to wonder if the current resurgence of new pathogens is simply the next chapter in a pre-written book.
As we look closer at the 2026 horizon, the script seems to be repeating, but with even higher stakes for humanity. By early 2020, the American economy was surging, a strategic asset that posed an existential threat to the globalist establishment. Then came the China virus, a biological black swan that many believe was weaponized to derail a populist presidency.
Fact. Lockdown policies caused the sharpest economic contraction in history. Hypothesis.
Within the intelligence community, a silent war erupted over the Wuhan lab leak theory, a truth suppressed for political convenience.
The system's architecture used public health as a shield, making any dissent against the narrative appear like an attack on science. Operation Warp Speed was Trump's attempt to break the bureaucratic deadlock, bypassing decades of red tape to deliver a solution.
Yet, even this initiative was subverted, as timing and data were manipulated to ensure the vaccine's announcement followed the election.
Strategic paralysis was the goal, keeping the population mask-bound and isolated to prevent the massive, high-energy rallies of 2016.
The battle wasn't just about medicine. It was about who controls the state of emergency, the elected leader or the permanent. 2026 intelligence reports suggest that the deep state utilized pandemic protocols to test the limits of executive power and compliance. Trump's withdrawal from the World Health Organization in 2020 was a direct strike at the heart of the globalist command structure. The psychological pressure on the administration was relentless, fueled by a media apparatus synchronized to amplify fear and domestic. In this asymmetrical conflict, the virus served as the fog of war, allowing for radical changes in voting laws and procedures.
Opponents of the administration benefited from the crisis, using the state of emergency to implement long-term social and economic.
The human cost was measured not just in lives lost to the virus.
Geopolitical analysts observed that the pandemic successfully shifted the world's focus away from China's expansionism toward internal Western.
Is the deep state preparing a new biological trigger to maintain its grip as the 2026 global tensions?
The war for the soul of the nation continues, and the next pathogen may be the final move in the... While the world recovered from the first wave, a more lethal specter began to stir in the tropical shadows of Asia.
Nipah is not a mere mutation. Its genetic sequence in 2026.
Unlike the airborne SARS, Nipah targets the central nervous system, turning the human brain into a battlefield of swelling and fire. Fact: Nipah has a fatality rate of up to 75%. Hypothesis: it is the perfect kill agent for targeted regional. Advanced AI models can now run millions of simulations to predict which viral traits will bypass modern mRNA vaccine defenses.
This, Biological Warfare 2.0, where pathogens are designed to be smart.
The integration of AI and virology allows for ethnic targeting, designing proteins that bind more effectively to specific genetic markers. By using AI to optimize transmission, the creators can ensure the virus spreads exactly fast enough to overwhelm local healthcare. Strategic reports from 2026 indicate that Nipah's sudden appearance in urban centers aligns with a new doctrine of surgical depopulation.
The system architecture of this new threat relies on silent incubation, making the host a walking biological time bomb.
Intelligence analysts argue that Nipah serves as a force multiplier to enforce global lockdowns that make the 2020 era look.
The psychological impact of a 75% death rate creates a state of total compliance where fear...
AI doesn't just design the virus, it manages the panic, using social algorithms to suppress news of the actual cure.
Comparing Nipah to COVID-19 is like comparing a surgical scalpel to a sledgehammer. One is for disruption, the other for
The elite class views these biological tools as necessary reset mechanisms to manage a planet with dwindling natural resources.
Human operators are now secondary. The AI directs the laboratory's automated synthesis, creating new strains faster than humans can. Geopolitical shifts are inevitable, as nations accused of leaking these AI pathogens face total isolation and economic death.
Is Nipah the final signature of an era where biology is no longer natural, but a cold piece of beyond governments and borders? A silent duopoly manages $1 trillion.
In the months preceding 2020, these financial titans quietly consolidated their stakes in the very companies that would define the pandemic. By controlling the capital, they control the research, ensuring that solutions align with the long-term goals of their institutional investors.
The 2026 data reveals a new pivot: massive outflows from traditional tech into AI-driven genomics.
This is the pandemic economy, a circular system where crisis drives profit, and profit is reinvested into the next biological frontier.
BlackRock's Aladdin AI, the world's most powerful risk management system, analyzes geopolitical shifts to position assets before the first headline even breaks.
When these firms vote at shareholder meetings, they dictate the policies of big pharma, from patent enforcement to global distribution.
Strategic positioning in 2025 shows a significant increase in holdings related to zoonotic surveillance, the very systems meant to detect Nipah.
The system's architecture ensures that no matter who wins the war or loses the plague, the house, the asset managers, always wins. Critics argue that this concentration of power creates a conflict of interest on a planetary scale, where health is a secondary. During the 2020 lockdowns, while small businesses perished, the Big Two saw their assets under management surge to record-breaking.
Their influence extends to the boards of major media outlets, ensuring that the investment narrative is protected from public scrutiny.
In the 2026 horizon, the pivot toward life science real estate suggests the construction of more high-security labs in urban centers.
The human element is reduced to a consumer profile, where every vaccination or health check is a data point for future.
The sheer scale of their ownership means they can effectively bypass national sovereignty by threatening to withdraw the capital that sustains. Analyzing the Vanguard model reveals a passive-aggressive dominance. They own everything, yet they are accountable to almost no one.
Geopolitical analysts observe that the financial reset is being managed by these entities to transition the world into a...
As the next pathogen emerges, watch the money. The flow of capital will reveal the true epicenter of the coming.
The frontier of modern medicine has moved beyond chemistry into the realm of programmable matter at the molecular level.
mRNA platforms require lipid nanoparticles to bypass the body's natural defenses, delivering genetic code directly into the cellular machinery.
Fact: LNPs are essential for mRNA stability. Hypothesis: their synthetic metallic properties.
In 2026, the rollout of 6G networks introduces terahertz frequencies, capable of interacting with structures at the nanometer scale.
Strategic documents suggest a concept called Internet of Bodies, where biological data is streamed in real time to centralized AI. The vaccine industrial complex has integrated biosensors into the delivery systems, allowing for the monitoring of biological responses remotely.
Critics point to the use of graphene oxide in research, a material known for its extraordinary electrical conductivity and signal amplification.
If the human body becomes a node in a global network, the definition of sovereign health is permanently erased.
This technology creates a feedback loop, where external frequencies could potentially trigger the release of specific proteins or chemicals.
The system's architecture is designed for precision governance, where compliance can be verified at the molecular level through biometrics. Intelligence analysts warn that Nipah-based vaccines in 2026 may utilize even more advanced smart lipids for targeted delivery. The alignment of high-speed telecommunications and mass biological interventions is not a coincidence, but a convergence of control.
In this asymmetrical battlefield, the civilian population becomes a living laboratory for the testing of remote biological modulation.
Decision-makers view this as the final optimization, removing the unpredictability of human health through digital biological integration. The geopolitical implications are staggering. The nation that controls the biological frequency controls the global workforce.
The human cost of this integration remains unknown, as long-term studies on synthetic biointeraction are... Are we witnessing the birth of a new species? The connected individual, whose very heartbeat is managed by a...
The vaccine is the hardware, the mRNA is the software, and the 6G network is the operating. As the Nipah threat grows, the pressure to integrate with the biocloud will become an offer most cannot. The war for the mind was Chapter 1. The war for the body is Chapter 2. The war for the soul is... By 2026, the concept of a physical border has evolved into a dynamic, invisible barrier controlled by real-time health data.
The biofence is a centralized software architecture that integrates individual digital IDs with public transport and building access systems.
Fact. We're testing his...
If your biosignal or synchronization status drops below a specific threshold, the system automatically deactivates your ability to transact.
This is geofeng on a human scale, where the software prevents adult and male of African American descent.
The Nipah protocols of 2026 allow for micro-lockdowns, isolating single apartment buildings or streets.
The system's architecture bypasses human law enforcement, using IoT-connected locks and autonomous vehicles to enforce the state of... Compliance is no longer a choice. It is a prerequisite for modern survival in an interconnected, cashless society. Control is maintained through total visibility, where the AI knows your location, your temperature, and your recent contacts.
The human element is marginalized as the algorithm decides who is a public health threat based on predictive.
These biocages are sold to the public as safe zones, using the fear of Nipah's high mortality too.
Geopolitical analysts note that the biofence allows governments to neutralize political dissent by simply turning off an individual's.
The infrastructure for this was laid during the 5G rollout, providing the bandwidth necessary for billions of constant biodata.
In this scenario, the city itself becomes a giant, living organism that can reject any infected or non-compliant cell.
The cost of resistance is total social exclusion. No food, no medicine, no communication. A modern form of digital.
Decision makers believe this optimization is the only way to save the collective from the chaos of.
Is the horizon of 2026 a world where freedom is just a software permission that can be revoked?
As Nipah spreads through the air, the biofence tightens its grip, making the dream of privacy. We have built the walls ourselves, one digital signature at a time, and now the gates are.
Chapter 8, The Modern Inquisition Disown, Silencing the Dissent.
History is not written by the objective, but by those who successfully silence the voices of opposition.
In 2026, the stake is no longer a physical fire, but a digital assassination of character and professional standing.
Fact. Thousands of doctors were censored during the initial pandemic. Hypothesis. This was a psychological operation to ensure total narrative.
The system's architecture uses consensus as a weapon, defining science as a fixed dogma rather than a process of inquiry. History's character assassination involves the smear loop, where intelligence agencies leak falsehoods to media outlets to justify official.
In 2025, declassified memos revealed that top health officials coordinated with big tech to shadow ban Nobel-winning scientists.
The twin crisis sees this tactic evolve, using AI to generate fake, peer-reviewed studies to debunk genuine.
Dissidents are labeled bioterrorists or public health threats, a legal classification that allows for the freezing of their assets.
Looking back at the Great Barrington Declaration, we see a blueprint for how the elite react when the curtain is.
The human cost is a chilling effect, where young researchers choose silence over the destruction of their careers and
strategic simulation. How many cures for Nipah or COVID were suppressed because they didn't fit the mRNA-driven profit?
The media's role is to act as the high priesthood, translating the complex biological lies into simplified fear for the.
This is the death of the Enlightenment, where data is ignored in favor of the socially responsible answer dictated from. Geopolitical analysts observe that the elimination of dissent is a prerequisite for the transition to a global centralized. Those who stood their ground, the 2026 outcasts, now operate in underground networks, sharing data via decentralized satellite.
The cycle repeats. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they...
Is science still a tool for truth? Or has it become the ultimate instrument? As the new pathogens emerge, the voices of the silenced are the only ones telling us where the exit.
The Inquisition never ended. It only changed its clothes and traded its Bibles for digital. The pieces of the puzzle are now locked into place, revealing a blueprint for a world redesigned through biological crisis. We have tracked the path from the pre-scripted drills of Event 201 to the silent biological weaponization of the air. Fact, global systems have been centralized. Narrative, it was for safety. Hypotheses, it is a permanent biological coup d'etat.
The war between Trump and the deep state was a battle for the control of this very infrastructure of emergency power.
Every vaccine mandate and every digital ID was a brick in the wall of the biofence we now find ourselves. Now, as Nipah 2.0 emerges, the system architecture is ready to execute a final, automated lockdown beyond any human control. The BlackRock and Vanguard ledger books show that the Great Reset is not a theory, but a fully funded reality.
The strategic goal was never to cure a disease, but to manage the survivor's behavior through a state of perpetual.
The dissidents who were silenced in the previous chapters were the early warning systems for the storm we now face.
Geopolitical sovereignty is dead. In its place is a global health regime that answers to no voters, only to.
The Nipah virus serves as the surgical harvester, a tool to justify the final implementation of the social credit system.
We stand at the precipice where biology is weaponized. Truth is a crime.
The choice for 2026 is simple yet terrifying. Total integration into the machine, or a life in the shadows.
The script is written. The stage is set.
History will remember this not as a tragedy of biology, but as the greatest engineering project in the history of
KL Warfront. Subscribe and share your thoughts to explore the secrets of the battlefield with us.